Hi, everyone. All right, I can see some folks talking in the chat. So yes, we have about 29 people signed up today, and I'm seeing a healthy amount in the chat so far. So we are going to get started in just a minute now. So I'm going to let a few more people file in. I'm going to mention my name is Andrew Heino. I'm a member of the instructional development team in CITS. We're a popular bunch right now. This workshop, we're going to be going over some instructional continuity tools and features. I'll go into a little more depth in a minute, but I do want to point out that I have two of my colleagues in the chat as well. I have Rachel Rubello and Tim O'Neill. So as you ask questions in the chat, if I don't address them on camera or speaking to you, they may have replied to you. So look out for those two names. They both have CITS before their names as well. So make sure to use that text chat if you have any questions along the way. All right, I can see a few more people still filing in. So that's good. We're up to 21 now. So we're getting there. But we are 10 o'clock, so we're going to get going. So I'm going to just change what you're going to see in the middle. Okay. So this workshop, we're going to talk about two main tools. First, we're going to talk about My Courses, and everything pretty much for instructional continuity, we recommend basing it out of here. You should be seeing it now in the middle of the screen. And basically, My Courses is a digital headquarters for your course. The roster in your My Courses site and who has access stays in sync with COIN. So the COIN roster is going to show up in here. Your students automatically have access. You have access. It keeps in sync with adds and drops. And within here, you can add in different types of content. So for most of you, I believe it was yesterday or the day before, we pushed through My Courses sites for anyone who didn't have one. But if you created it prior to that point, you may have some other content in your course. But at a minimum, you're all going to have a few things, and we'll talk about that coming up. But just to talk a little about the way My Courses works, when you're looking at a My Courses site, on the left side of the page is this course menu. And then on the right side is this bigger pane where stuff shows up. So the idea is, as an instructor, you add links to the left menu that when students click on them, open on the right side of the page. So as you can see here, this course has a few links that I have pre-made. A lot of you probably have your My Courses sites that look like this. And in here are just some basics. And I'm going to go through what's in here. If you have a site with this content in it already, that's great. And it's going to be looking almost exactly the same on your end. But if you've used My Courses in the past and you have your own stuff, the same buttons are going to work. It just might be in a little bit of a different order. So to begin, like I said, this is My Courses. This is the sort of first opening page. And the Welcome Start Here area has some information. Again, this is part of the template. If you don't have this, we can set you up with it. But I did go through all of your course sites just before this workshop started, and I checked to make sure that you all had stuff in there. So if you don't have this exact content, you'll have something, and at minimum, you'll have one thing we're going to talk about a little bit later. So let me take a look at the chat real quick. Okay. I'll mention if you're having any trouble hearing, let me double check my mic. Let's see. My microphone is on, so that's good. Everybody should be able to hear me. If you cannot hear me, there is a phone option instead of listening through here. All right, let me see. Perfect, works for you, okay. All right, so it seems to be okay on my end. So if you're having trouble hearing, well, then you can't hear me right now. But for the ones who can, back to My Courses here. So if you have this content, you're going to see some instructors please read, and this is visible only to instructors. And what we're recommending right now is sort of minimal stuff where posting up some files, some links, potentially a place for students to submit assignments, and then also a place if you need to meet with students online. So this information on this front page talks you through that. So here it says, instructors please read. It has some tutorials. This video here on how to use this My Courses site is going to be helpful because it's going to talk about everything we're looking at in this workshop. And then also adding Zoom Pro as a tool link. That's something else we're going to talk about in a little bit. Zoom is the tool that you can use to meet with your students live online. And so this piece here is only visible to you. And then down here at the bottom is what your students will see, which is just a really brief sort of generic statement saying, you know, they need to make sure they're using a particular browser We recommend for faculty and for students using the Mozilla Firefox or the Google Chrome browser. Those are on all faculty laptops given to UMass Dartmouth faculty. Safari can be a little dicey, so that's the two we recommend. And we've also recommended students make sure they frequently check their UMassD email and always check the syllabus for anything you might have sent out to them. So this is just sort of the front page here. So now let's take a look at announcements. So on this left menu, I'm clicking on announcements, and it's going to open up this page. Announcements is a place where you can post messages for your students to see in My Courses, sort of like a running log of recent communications you've sent out to them. But they can also be sent out to your students via email, so to their UMass Dartmouth Outlook mail. So when you come to this page, you can click on Create Announcement, and you just write it out like an email. So I can say, hello, students. And then in this message box here, I can type out the message I want to send to them. So I'll say, hello, campus closed, pandemic. So you could say whatever you need to say to them there, keep them updated on the course. So subject line, write your message. And then it's also important, there's an option here, a checkbox that says email announcement, send a copy of this announcement immediately. You want to make sure you check this send a copy checkbox so that it also goes to their Outlook mail. If you don't check this send a copy box, it just posts it in My Courses, which is great, and your students will probably see it, but it can't hurt to also push it out to their Outlook mail so that they see it in as many places as possible, since your announcements and your communications are important. If a student replies to this Outlook through Outlook, it'll go to your UMass Dartmouth Outlook mail, so you don't have to worry about these going somewhere you're not used to. All of the communication we're recommending routes through Outlook mail that everyone uses for everything else at UMass. So check that box. I'm going to click Submit, and that's going to send this message to the class, which is just us. So here it shows a log. This announcement, hello students, was posted on such and such date, and here's the message. So here is going to be a log of all your communications, as I've mentioned. I'm going to take a moment now and check out the chat and see what's going on with everybody. Oh, we're up to 28 people in here, so it's going to get lively. Let's see what folks are saying. Someone mentioned they submitted a request for My Courses but have not heard back. Nora, anybody who is teaching this spring has a My Courses site, so that is available to you and to anybody who's teaching, and it should have this content in it at a minimum. Is there going to be chat available? Yeah, it's moving very fast. So this is being recorded, and I'll point out at the end of the session some documentation, some videos that go over everything we're going to talk about in this workshop that you can refer back to and watch as many times as you need to. And I'll also point out how you can get in touch with us after the workshop if you continue to have questions. Okay. All right. So then there was another question about announcements. Okay, great. All right. So I'll keep on moving. So that's the announcements tool. And now there's also email. So email sounds kind of like what announcements are already doing, but it's not really the same because announcements keeps a log of all of the things you post as the instructor on the My Courses site, but email is a way for you to email your students without also having it posted on My Courses. So if you were going to email the whole class, you would do an announcement. But if you wanted to contact a specific student, you would use email because in here you can do single select users, and it lets you pick from your roster who you'd like to send the email to. As well as you being able to send them the student something, they can also email you more easily without having to know your email address. So you can, as the students come in, they can also click this email link and they can say email all instructor users, and that just automatically goes to whoever the instructor of their course is. Again, this all routes through Outlook mail. So when the students send these messages and you reply or they reply, it's all going to go through your Outlook mail where everything is you're used to having your communications go. So next up, I'm going to skip over Zoom Live Classroom for a moment and then look at some other links here under student resources. So the campus advisory info link, this is just a link for the students. If they click on it, they're going to be brought to the UMass page on what's going on right now. It's just a good thing, I think, to have in courses at the moment. Things are changing rapidly. And then there's also a tech and support services link for them. Now, this is going to have some tutorials for the students on how to use My Courses, how to get technical support, how to contact academic support, and it's just a good place where you can tell your students if they're having any trouble using the technology that's out here, they can come here and get tutorials or find a way to get in contact with someone. All right, so that is a quick tour of some of the tools for communication. Now we're going to go through and we're going to add a little bit of content. So to do that, you're going to add what's called a content area to this left menu. So to do that, or really to add just about anything to a course menu, you'll go to the plus sign in the top left corner, and then you're going to do content area. Think of a content area like a folder. On the left menu, you can add these content areas, and it allows you to add files, links, assignment submission areas. Anytime you want to post or upload content for students, you're going to create a content area to do that in. So there's really no right or wrong way to name and organize your content areas. People tend to go in a couple of different ways. They'll either make an area for every week of their course and just make everything related to a particular week be located in there. So, you know, for example, week 9, and have all the files, readings, assignments for that week in week 9. Or they'll do what we call sort of the bucket approach. So you can say, here's a place to submit all your assignments. Here's a place where I'm going to post all of the PowerPoints. Here's a place where I'll post all the handouts. Here's a place where I'll post the syllabus. And then folks will have like 7 or 8 areas where those types of things will go. We usually recommend having the week areas since it cuts down on clicking for students. And that's what I'm going to demonstrate here. So I'm going to make this content area called week 8. And I'm going to say week 8 runs from, what are we looking at? March 16th to the 20th, 3/16, although they're on break now, so that doesn't really count. But just to give you an idea of what it looks like, I'm going to say week 8, when it's happening, I'm going to check this available to users checkbox. If you don't check available to users, it's not going to be visible to the students. So when you add stuff on that menu, make sure you check that box. And then I'm going to click submit. So here it is. It added that as a link at the bottom of my menu. And when I click on that week 8 link, it's going to give me a blank page where I can add some stuff. So first up, I'm going to try to upload a file. So that would be like a PowerPoint, Excel, PDF files, Word documents, whatever you've got that you would attach to an email. The file would be how you do that. So I'm going to come to Build Content up here at the top. This Build Content button is going to be used for adding any static content to the page. Like I said, so files, links to websites, videos, any of that kind of stuff is going to be added through Build Content. So under Build Content, I'm going to do File. And then here, I'm going to use the Browse My Computer option to pick the file from my computer. I'm just going to pick this random Word document, but you would pick whatever file on your computer that you want to send to your students. So I'm going to just click on that file and then do Open. And then I'm going to give my file a name. So I'll call it the Week 8 Handout. So I've given my file a name, picked it from my computer using the Browse My Computer button, and then I'll click Submit, and that's going to add it to the page. So now, when the students come in here, they're just going to click on the name of the file that you uploaded, and they will be able to open it and save it on their computer to view. Different files open different ways. So this is a Word document, so it has them save it to their computer. If you put up a PDF file, it'll open right there in My Courses, since those work a little differently. But for the most part, all students have to do is click on it, and it'll either open right on the website, or they'll download it, and they'll be able to save it on their computer and open it there. So I'm going to pause for another moment and ask if anyone has any questions about files or content areas before we move on. I'm also going to take a look at the chat to see how everybody's doing. Let's see. Can you do a bulk upload? I have about 40 PowerPoints to upload. You and everybody else. I wish I could tell you, yes, you can do a bulk upload. I don't recommend uploading 40 things at once. I would try to break it up into like pieces that make sense together. So, you know, these 5 go together, these 6 go together as a particular unit or lesson. And then you can do what's called an item. So under Build Content here, instead of choosing a file, you can do an item if you have a cluster of things you want to upload. And under Item, it works almost identical to the file, except here, when you use Browse My Computer, you can select multiple files from your computer, and that will upload multiple at a time. Like I said, I don't recommend uploading 40 in one big list. Try to organize them by topics, but it is a possibility. And again, if you have any questions about that, I'll let you know how to contact us at the end. Okay, announcements. Okay, what types of files can you upload? You can upload just about any type of file. I'll say there's technically no file size limit, but don't upload, 2 gig movies. If your students need to watch, something, you should be linking to big videos and stuff online. But otherwise, Word documents, PDFs, PowerPoints, Excel files. I know there's some files for like specialized software. It should be pretty much fine. In terms of file size, I would recommend nothing bigger than 100 or 200 megabytes at most, if that means anything to you. But just because, depending on the student's connections from home, if you upload a big giant file on there, it might take a while for them to download it. So there's really no restriction as to what type of file, but just know if it's a big file, it might be a little difficult for them to download. Word docs, anything created with Microsoft Office and PDFs, I haven't seen any that PowerPoint. I haven't seen any PowerPoint, PDFs, Word documents, or anything like that my courses couldn't handle and that couldn't be uploaded. So I think most materials anybody's using can be uploaded there pretty much just fine. Do you need to zip files? No, you do not. I'll reiterate, Rachel said it a couple times. We're going to cover Zoom, the web conferencing tool, at the very end after I do my courses. So for anybody asking for that, I promise I'm going to go full detail on Zoom. I cannot, this is actually a good question. I cannot see all content on my screen. The left side is getting cut off. So depending on the size of your computer monitor and how zoomed in it is, your site may look like this, where you just see the right side of it. So along the far left edge, there's sort of this turquoise bar. If you notice your menu disappears, you click on that turquoise bar and it opens the menu back up. So again, that's if your menu goes away, you just click the far left edge of the screen and it pops back open. Okay. And I'll encourage everybody to take a look at the chat because Rachel's posting tons of good videos and tutorials that people are asking for. So take a look at that. Okay, so back into using my courses. So now I'm going to try adding a link to a website here on the page for the students. So I'm going to go to Build Content, and I'm going to do Web Link. And then here, I'm going to just add a link to Google as an example. So I'll say Google, and then Google is my home page. So to get a student a link to a file, to a web page rather, up at the top of whatever website you're looking at, that link, the http://www, you're going to copy that. And then in the web link screen, you paste it in this URL field. So if you've ever sent someone a link to something in an email or something like that, this is where you're going to do that. You put the name of the link that's a little more visually friendly. I'm going to say, name is Google, and then URL is paste in that link that you see at the top of your window. This also gives you a choice to type in a description for the link. So I can say, click this link to visit the Google homepage to do your research, since there's no final place to start your research than Google. So name, paste the link, submit. And then that's going to add it on the page. You'll start to notice that everything folks add to a My Courses content area has a different icon. So visually, students will get to learn what things are just even based on the visual graphic there. And so the way a web link works is a student comes in, clicks on Google, takes them to Google. And that'll work if you're sending them to a library database article, something on like a video streaming service like a Canopy or a YouTube, anything like in Washington Post, the articles, just about anything you want to link to on the internet for your students to check out, the web link is going to be the way to go. Okay, so next up, we're going to talk about how to add a place for students to submit work to you through My Courses. And that's going to be through a tool called Assignments. So under Assessments, up at the top of your content area, you can do an assignment, which is the third option down. So here I'm going to name it homework 3, since I'm looking to have my students submit homework 3. And then in the instructions box, I can type in what I want them to do here. So I can say, answer questions 1 through 10 on page 95 of your textbook, and then submit your answers here as a Word document attachment. So giving my assignment a name, typing in directions. It's important to mention how you want them to submit something. Most students do use Microsoft Word and Office, but for the ones who don't, they may submit things, and you may have gotten these in the past as an email attachment, a Google Doc attachment, or an Open Office or something. So it's good to say, submit as a PowerPoint file, submit as a Word document, or submit as a PDF. There's no limit as to what they can submit, but you just want to be able to get it in a format that you can actually open. And PDF, Word, PowerPoint, those 3 are the ones most people can open. I'll mention that you, as a faculty person on your faculty laptops, and you automatically have Office and Word and all that. But students as well can download Office for free. And so if they say they don't have Word or they don't have PowerPoint, if they come to this Tech and Support Services link on the course menu, or they go to the Help, Tips, and Updates tab in My Courses up here in the top right corner, we have directions there for students on how to download Office if they don't already have it, at no cost to them. They just download it and log in with their UMass account, and for as long as they're a student, they're able to use it. All right, so my assignment has a name. I put in some directions. We have a familiar looking Browse My Computer button. You'll see that in a few spots in My Courses. So if you had an attachment that went with this assignment, you could use Browse My Computer to put that with the link before they click on it. And then right here, you can put the due date for the assignment. So I'm going to use this little calendar button to choose that it's due next Friday, and it automatically fills in end of day, 11:59 p.m. But you can set that to whatever time you want. So I can switch it to 5 p.m. if I want to. The due date here doesn't cut off students' ability to submit after this date. It's just sort of a visual indicator for the students when they're looking at the assignment that was created, so that they know, oh, it's due March 20th. When they're reading the directions, it's right there. If a student submits after that date, it comes in to you marked as late, so that as you're grading, you'll be able to see, oh, this student submitted after the due date. Just below due date is points possible. You have to fill this in. You don't have to do the due date, but you do have to do this field. Most folks would grade things out of 100, but you can type in however many points you grade this particular assignment out of. So this isn't how many points or what weight it counts toward the grade. It's simply, this is what I want to grade this particular assignment out of. So I'm going to say 100 there. And then a little further down the page, and you'll see this in a few different spots in My Courses, whenever you upload stuff, there's availability dates. So if you did want to have this assignment shut off and not allow any submissions after a certain period, you can use these dates. And really, it's just an automatic way to have something show up or disappear at a certain point. So here I can say display after, and we'll say today at 8 a.m. And then display until next week on Friday at 5 p.m. So these rules will indicate when this is even visible. So if you wanted to have something not be able to be submitted at the due date, you could set the due date and the display until date to the same date. If you wanted to give them 1 or 2 day wiggle room to submit something late, you can make the due date Friday, and then you can make the display until date Sunday. You can customize these however you want to have things show up and disappear however you'd like. These dates are also a great way to get ahead of your students. So if you want to put up some stuff for the week after, or 2 weeks out, or 3 weeks out, in an ideal world where everyone's very prepared for what's going to be happening in a month, you can come in and set things up way ahead of time if you need to, without having students see things before you want them to. All right, so again, gave our assignment a name, put some directions in here, did a due date, how many points I want to grade out of. I did some automatic an automatic date to have it show up and disappear. And then I'm going to click submit to add it to my page. So after a moment, it comes right in here, and it has its own icon, the little pencil ruler. And for a student, they would just come in here, click on this assignment, homework 3 link, And this is exactly how it looks. It's going to say, here's the due date, here's how many points I'm going to grade it out of, here's the directions that you as the instructor provided. If there were any attachments you provided up front, it would show those right here. And then students use the Browse My Computer button to pull the file in that they need to submit to you as an attachment. So, and then once they submit it, it goes off to you for grading. I'll mention in a second how to get to those, but this is just sort of a quick pause moment to see if anybody has any questions. So if you have any questions about assignments or something I've talked about with assignments, go ahead and type them in the text chat and we will take a look. Okay, let's see. Okay. Oh, Rachel put in the tutorial for how students can install Office in the text chat. So if you want to grab that tutorial, you can get the link from Rachel's message there from 1022. Is there a way to do anonymous submissions? The law school uses numbers, not names. There is a way to do anonymous submissions. It wouldn't, I'm assuming maybe they put the numbers on whatever the thing is they're submitting. When you're creating an assignment under, is there a way to do anonymous? Yeah. So when you're creating an assignment, yeah. So this is just for the few folks who need it. If you wanted anonymous grading, when you're setting up an assignment under grading options, there's a checkbox to enable anonymous grading. And then if you want to, although it does have you release it after a certain date so that you can see who's who, so just determine if that's going to be okay for you. Otherwise, it's going to be attached to their name later on after they've been anonymously graded. Okay, anonymous submissions. No essays. Okay, okay, okay. Oh, somebody's used anonymous grading, Melissa DeRoches. Well, Melissa, if you don't mind, let Rebecca know how it went in the chat. Oh, it worked well. Fantastic. I've never used that setting, but for someone who needed it, it seems to have worked well. So that's great. All the law school needs anonymous grading. Well, I'm happy to report Melissa thinks it worked really well, and so I would trust her. I think it does too. All right, so now we're going to move on. There's one more thing in my courses I want to show you, and then we're going to check out Zoom. Okay, so within a My Courses site, you can go into what's called student preview mode, and we recommend people do that to use or to check your work. So in the upper right corner, I'm actually going to change the look of my site a little bit to make this easier to see. Okay, so within a My Courses site, along the top right corner, there's this little arrow eyeball. It's to the left of this little color swatcher, and it looks like an eyeball with an arrow going in each direction. If you click on that, it's kind of tough to see against the light blue, but if you click on it, it's going to take you into student preview mode, and this is letting you see your My Courses site exactly as a student would. So if you left something hidden, it wouldn't be visible. You can try submitting an assignment and clicking on the things you added to determine if it actually went up the way you think it did. This is just a way to quality check what you've put up here and really experience things like a student does to make sure what you're doing reflects how you want it to in the My Courses site. So to get out of student preview mode, you can click Exit Preview in the upper right corner on the orange bar. It might pop up asking you if you want to delete or keep the user, the preview user, because it really is putting you in there as an actual student. So for me, it puts me in as Andrew Heino preview user. For the most part, you would just, let's say, delete my preview user and then exit preview to get out and back to edit mode where you as the instructor have full control. So, sorry if you can hear everybody out in our main lab area. There's a busy place today. So again, that eyeball in the top right corner lets you go into student view to check what's going on and to let you check your work. All right, so within My Courses, there's sort of one last piece of how to organize the stuff that you're putting up here. When you add things, it puts it at the bottom of whatever page it is. But if you ever need to edit something that you've put up in My Courses, if you put your mouse over whatever it is, you can click the little down arrow to the little circle down arrow to the right of the piece of content and go to edit. Edit is pretty universal. So clicking the down arrow and going to edit gets you back into the settings you initially saw when you added it to the page and you created it. And it's pretty universal. So if I edited a file, that's how I get into it from there. Same thing with this web link, click the down arrow, edit. Same thing with this assignment, click the down arrow, edit. It lets you go back in and change what you've done. Nothing's really ever written in stone with My Courses. You can always go back in and edit something to tweak settings or change wording or anything like that. The same applies to stuff on the menu. So if I come here and I click the down arrow next to announcements, I can rename my link. If I wanted to call it My Announcements, I can do that. Or if I click the down arrow, there's also an option to delete, which I'm not going to delete this, but if you ever need to delete something, that's also under the down arrow. And there's also an option to hide link. So if I click on hide link, it's going to put a little square with a line through it to the right of my link. And that means it's visible to you, but it's not visible to students. If I want to re-release a link back to students, you just click that down arrow again and do show link. It's going to get rid of that square and it makes it visible to them. Similarly, on the right side of the page, when you're looking at content you've added to a page, it works almost the same way. You can click the down arrow next to something and say make unavailable, and that's going to make it unavailable so students can't see it. And it says availability, item is hidden from students. And again, that's universal. You click that down arrow and you can make something unavailable or available manually. It grays it out a little bit and it gives you confirmation underneath that it's hidden from students. So one other thing you might want to do is arrange the order of something on the page. So to do that, you would just grab the left edge of whatever it is. So if I wanted to put this assignment at the top of the page, you just put your mouse over the thing, whatever it might be, and then on the left edge, there's sort of like a barber pole diagonal stripes, and you click on that and then hold down your mouse arrow and pull it up or down on the page. And then you let go of your mouse once it's in the place that you want it to be. So I dragged it up, I can pull it down, I can put it in the middle, I can twirl it all around. And so that's where you can rearrange things. And the same goes for the menu. If I want to put something on this menu higher up, I can put my mouse over it. And then on the left here, it's smaller, but it has those stripes. I can grab it and then drag it up my menu to be somewhere else. So I moved it up here into this course content section. But everything can be moved and rearranged however you'd like it to, and however best organized, whatever the best way to organize your content and your materials is, you can arrange it just about however you'd like it. Okay, so that finishes up My Courses. I'm not seeing too much chatter in the chat, so I'm just going to move on and check out Zoom. So Zoom is a web conferencing tool that you can use to meet with your students live online. As we know, we're using it right now. So if you go into your sites, I've made sure every single course site for everybody in this class has a Zoom Live Classroom link on their menu or something similar that says Live Classroom or Zoom. So when you click onto that link, if you've used Zoom before, it should just open up, but sometimes if you haven't, or sometimes if you've used it in a particular way, it's going to bring up a screen that says Zoom has emailed you a link to activate your account. So if it did send you to a page that says activate your account, you just have to go to your UMass Dartmouth email, and there's an email with a link in it that you just click that link, log in with your UMass Dartmouth account, and then it activates your account. So that when you come back in here and click on that live classroom link, you get a page that looks like the one I'm seeing here. I'll mention also, this is the tutorials and everything I will put at the end of the training, because once we get into Zoom, it's a little clicky, but it's pretty easy to use once you've got one Zoom session under your belt. So don't feel like if you miss something I'm about to say, you're never going to find it anywhere else. I promise. We have some good resources to show you at the end of the session. So the way Zoom works is you have to schedule meetings for any times you plan to meet with your students. So that's going to be done using this Schedule a New Meeting button up here in the top right corner. So when I click on Schedule a New Meeting, it's going to say topic, and usually I recommend it's just going to fill in the name of your course. so just leave that as it is. So mine says instructional continuity, yours might say E&L 101, AED 101, whatever it might be, just leave that. But the most important thing is the when fields. So I'm going to say that this session, oop, my phone's ringing. I'm going to turn that down. I'm going to say that this session is going to be next week on Tuesday at 11 a.m. And then I'm going to say the duration is going to be 3 hours. It doesn't, if you overestimate how long it's going to be, that's totally fine. It's not going to, you know, hold you to whatever that is. And then under time zone, there's a recurring meeting option. So if this is, you know, going to be a recurring meeting where you want to have this be, you know, for 2 weeks, most people are going to do at least 2 of these. You could say recur on a weekly basis. And I'm going to say on, what did I say, Tuesdays? So I'm going to say Tuesdays, and then stop after 2 weeks. So what this does is it's saying my first session is going to be on Tuesday. It's going to be 3 hours long, and I want to make sure this recurs so that weekly it's going to happen on Tuesdays and it's going to happen twice. So here it's just a way to set up, you know, if you needed to do 4, 5, 6 of these in a row, you could set that up here. Some people who do like Tuesday, Thursday classes, you can check off Tuesday and Thursday. And so it'll set up meetings for you for Tuesday and Thursday. And the links will just be right there and ready to go. If I scroll down a little bit more, we recommend leaving pretty much all these options as default, except for record this meeting automatically. If you check the record this meeting automatically box, that's going to make it so that your session with your students, your meeting, is automatically recorded. It saves those recordings in your My Courses site for them and for you to review. You can start the recording from within the Zoom on your own when you're already in it, but this just sort of makes it so you don't have to remember to hit a button. It will automatically do it. For the purposes of the demo, I'm not going to check it so that I can show you how to manually enable and disable recording, but that option is there, and I think most folks would want to record it so that any students who can't make it can watch it after the fact. Students cannot record your meetings without you knowing. Does the recording get permission from all the students? So it's up to you to what extent you want your students to participate in a Zoom session. If you just want them to do the text chat and not have their audio or their video, you know, there's less concerns with the recording, but the recordings and all this is private to the class. So only you and the students within the class can see the recordings, but you do have the, I don't want to say the right, but you have the, you're allowed to record what's going to happen in a Zoom session without worrying about privacy, because this is all behind a password in a My Courses site where only you and your students, similar to in the classroom, you know, you are in there with your students and they're expected not to record someone the same way they would anywhere else. So this is sort of in that sacred space, so to say, of the classroom. All right, so I'm going to save here. And then if I come back, I can see here my Tuesday meetings have all been set up. So one for this week and one for next week and one for the Thursday after that. All right, so now to start a Zoom session, I'm going to click the Start button, and then it's going to launch Zoom. I actually am going to show you sort of a simulation of this because I'm in a Zoom meeting presenting to you now. I can't open another one to show you how it works. So if I come into here, I'll show you my video. I'll mention and shout out, when you first log into My Courses, there's a Using Zoom in My Courses video, also narrated by me, sitting there that goes over everything we're doing right now. So I can show you in the video exactly where what this looks like. Alrighty, so within your Zoom space, I'll make it big. You come in here and you click on Start. And then it's going to have you download a file. For most faculty on your faculty laptop, Zoom is actually already installed, whether you know it or not. But if it isn't, this file is going to be saved on your computer. And when it's opened and run, it's going to install Zoom if it's not already there. And if it is already there, it's going to open up a Zoom room connected to that My Courses site where you and the students can get to. Do students get to the class through My Courses, or do they need a link? Students are able to get into a Zoom session via the same link you just I looked at on my site. So there's a Zoom live classroom link in all of your sites. Students go there just like you do, and they're going to click join on that page. So encourage them all to go through My Courses. It's going to be the easiest way to do it. Okay, so once you're in a Zoom session, I'm going to switch up a little bit here. It's going to look like this for you and for the students. Let me make this bigger. Okay. So get out of here. Okay. All right. So for when you first enter into a Zoom session, it's going to come up and ask you to join with your computer audio, as you probably experienced a little bit earlier. I have us all muted here so that it's not 30 people on microphones talking at once. But if your computer doesn't have a speaker or you don't have a microphone, the phone call option up here at the top gives students or you the ability to dial in with your telephone instead of using a microphone on your computer or the speakers on your computer. So if you know that they're difficult or you're having trouble, you can always use the phone call option for the audio portion of the conference or for the Zoom meeting. So once the audio is connected, now in the bottom left corner, there's a place for mute and start video. It's a microphone and a camera. By default, as the instructor, your microphone is going to be turned on. But if you click on the little microphone icon, it adds a little line through it, as it does have here for the start video, and that just turns your microphone off. So you can click on either of these inputs to turn your microphone and camera on and off. So just before we started, I had mine off, but then once I got started, I clicked on each of them to make sure that they were on, and then it showed my face to everybody and let the students see that. It actually looks the same on the student's end. There's a button in the bottom left corner once they join. If you've given them the ability to use webcam and microphone, they can turn theirs on and off right within there. So moving on from your audio, there's also the record button down here in the bottom right corner. So if you didn't have your session set to automatically record, you can click on record down here and do record to the cloud. You wouldn't do record on this computer because then it saves it to your computer. The record to the cloud is going to keep it in My Courses and pretty seamless so that you don't have to manage video files. It just keeps it in My Courses where students and you can all get to it automatically. So that's how you can record. When you do record to the cloud, it changes the look of this button a little bit. And before you leave the room, this will be a little stop button that says stop recording, and you can click stop to stop the recording. So it also allows you to control when it records and when it stops. So if you wanted to do a period of lecture and then stop and take questions, then you didn't want the questions to be recorded, you can stop the recording before the questions start so that that piece of it isn't recorded. So it doesn't always have to be the full 3-hour thing. I'll mention also that if you do have your Zoom set to automatically record, you'll be able to stop it at any time as well down here. Once you come in, it'll automatically be recording. You would just click over here and then do stop recording if you wanted to stop it at any point. Otherwise, it would just record until the session's over. All right, so moving on. As most of you know, because you're participating with us in the chat, along the bottom here, there's a chat option. And I recommend having your students type and interact with you via chat while you're speaking so that there's not too many cooks in the kitchen talking. And when you click on chat, it opens this pane along the right where you can text chat back and forth. There's the chat. Under share screen, this is how you would do your sort of virtual projection of your computer screen. So if you have slides, documents, anything like that that you want to show to your students who are in the session with you, you would click share screen in the lower bottom portion of Zoom. You would click on screen to indicate that you want to share your entire screen with the class. And then you would click the share button to share the whole screen and have it start projecting. Once you share your screen, it's going to close Zoom a little bit, and you're just going to have a bar at the top of your screen that looks like this, where you can control your camera and your microphone like you could before. You can stop sharing your screen using this stop share button if you need to stop. And there's also an annotate button, which is kind of cool, where you can click on that, and then it gives you a pencil if you want to scribble on the screen or scribble on top of whatever's showing up to the students. Under the more, sorry about that. Under the More option, you can access some of the other tools that you usually saw along the bottom of Zoom, like the recording, the chat, all that kind of stuff. So it's just sort of a condensed version of the lower part that you see when Zoom is in sort of full view mode. All right, so I'm going to take a quick second to see if anybody has questions so far in our chat. Okay, let's see. How much bandwidth do I need when using Zoom? 3G, 4G, LTE, Zoom Help Center. Oh, okay, so Tim answered that in there. If you're going to do a live conference, I recommend getting somewhere where there's strong Wi-Fi and plugging in if possible. The better your connection, anytime you're using Zoom, the better. Massachusetts law requires permission from everyone before you can record a conversation. Yes, of course. But you can say to the students when the session starts, this is being recorded. I will stop it at this point. I will start it at this point. So you have full control over when it's recording and letting your students know. I have 60 students in my class. How would I have space on my screen? If I want to see them, yeah, I would not recommend having 60 students all turn on their cameras at once. For the most part, I would encourage you to have them talk to you through the text chat, and then you be the speaker. And if you want to stop at points to take questions, that's a time where you could let them speak. I'm not going to go into every single button in Zoom. Like I said, I will direct you to some resources on how to use every single button in Zoom at the end of the session. But for the most part, for moderation purposes, you should really consider yourself the primary speaker. Let your students type in the chat, and then you can reiterate their questions to respond to people. And then maybe at the end, you can open it up and let people speak as needed. But 60 students with 60 microphones, that could go real bad real quick. Okay. Is there a way to share only a portion of the screen? Yes. When you do click on share screen, I recommend just doing share the entire screen. But if you just wanted to show PowerPoint, or if you just wanted to show Word, it will show on this page everything you have open, and you can click on just show them Word, just show them PowerPoint. Sharing the screen is easier because if you switch between Word and the internet or Word and PowerPoint, it just seamlessly switches. You don't have to come here and configure anything. So consider just doing share screen because it's a little bit easier. What else have we got here? I'm worried about a lot of people joining at once to the UMSD site, possibly with no internet connections. Me too. We are in a little bit of uncharted territory, but we don't actually host Zoom ourselves. It's hosted by a company that is a huge company. I mean, tons and tons of corporations and universities and businesses use Zoom. So the infrastructure is not something that we host here. Zoom is a really robust system with a ton of clients and people using it daily and through conferences and webinars and classes and just so many different ways Zoom is used. So I'm not actually too worried about Zoom. But you never know what's on the other end. You know, if the student technology isn't great, at a minimum, students can always dial in. At a minimum, usually students have a telephone. So think about that as the lowest tech option where students can at least see what's going on and dial in on their phone to participate in what's being said. Let's see. Can you work in programs like CAD to show them? You absolutely can. If you do a screen share, it will show whatever's on your screen. Any software you open, Word, PowerPoint, the internet browser, CAD, SPSS, anything fancy schmancy, Photoshop, anything happening on your screen, think about it just like you're projecting in a classroom. Whatever's on your screen, they're going to see. Okay. Can you schedule a Zoom with individuals or groups? You can. You just schedule meetings in your My Courses site. Let me jump back there for a moment. You schedule meetings in here for whatever you want. So if you want to do a 5 p.m. on a Tuesday meeting with a particular group of students, you would schedule a meeting in here just for that purpose. Is this all session available anywhere else? Yes, I'll point you to how to get to this later at the end. If you are using presenter view in PowerPoint, I do not want students to see my notes on the slides. Is there a way to limit what they see? No. So for folks who use notes on their PowerPoint, because it's all sharing your whole screen, unless you have 2 monitors, which most people don't, I recommend printing out your PowerPoint notes so that you can have the notes on a physical paper that you can have like next to you, and then project your whole PowerPoint without them, and turning off the notes view. So if you use your PowerPoint notes, I recommend printing them. There's a specific way in PowerPoint to just print your notes. That would be the best way to go. All right, so if I come back to my presentation, so that's the sharing the screen, and that's how you can stop your sharing. And then once you're done with your meeting and you and the students are all ready to wrap it up, in the lower right corner of Zoom, there's an end meeting button. On your view, it's going to show leave meeting right now, but when you're the instructor, you can end the meeting. And when you end the meeting, you can end the meeting for everyone, and then it closes the room. Everyone gets kicked out, so to speak, and then the session is over, considering class is over. All right, so that is Zoom. Let me go through here, minimize, and come back to here. So for the rest of the, someone just asked, can you show us how to use the whiteboard? So from within Zoom, when I said share your screen, you can share your screen and that shows whatever's going on your computer screen, but the other option is to share a whiteboard where it's just going to give you a blank white space where you can scribble, and students will see whatever's getting scribbled on there. So you just choose whiteboard instead of screen when you're sharing your screen. From within my courses, if you or the students want to access the recordings of past sessions, you can go to Cloud Recordings here, and this will list any recordings that have been done recently of recent sessions. I don't have any in this site, but once they're done and recorded, they show up here. The longer the session, the longer it takes for it to show up. I usually say it's about time and a half. So if you did an hour-long meeting, it might take 90 minutes or so. I would expect to wait at least for your session to show up in here, give or take how busy things are and how long it's processing. So somebody asked if students can share the screen. Yes, not by default, but if you did want to have a student or a group present, you can pass the presenter role back and forth to particular people if you wanted other folks to present during it. All right, so I'm going to come back to my courses now. And from within here, I'm going to look at another link here, faculty support. So this is actually a hidden link, but it's got links here for some particularly useful stuff for faculty. So first up is My Courses Help for faculty. So if you click on that link, it's going to take you to a page that has tutorials for doing just about everything you can think of in My Courses, from uploading content, organizing what you have in there, creating places for students to submit work, how to grade the stuff students have submitted in there. All that's going to be under My Courses Help for faculty. Instructional continuity is going to be a page some of you might have already seen, where it has some quick tips on everything we talked about in this workshop and how to do everything we talked about with video and printable tutorials on all of it. From My Courses to Zoom, all of it's on here. There's also CITS help and support. If you need to reach us or get help from us, you can use this tool and choose Instructional Technologies to get a ticket into us so that we can get back to you as quick as possible. And then we also have a 24/7 help desk. So if I click on that link, it takes you to, it's an outside vendor, but we contract with them to do sort of our off-hour help, but they're fantastic. Students, actually, we have all students start by going through this, these folks. But you, as the faculty member, if you have basic questions about how do I create an assignment, how do I do something in My Courses, if you call them literally anytime 24/7, they're able to pick up the phone or chat with you live online to go through how to do something. They're really a great resource for that, like, 6 o'clock in the morning, I need to get this up right now. The 24/7 help folks can usually help you through the clicks of something. If they hit a point where they don't have access to something or it's something very specific, they'll escalate it to a member of our team. So then we will get back to you, usually not too long after, if it's needed. But for the most part, they can walk you through just about any click-by-click situation. And for the students, it's available to them all the time. How can students get help? So within here, we have the Tech and Support Services link, and this is tutorials and contact information for students on how to get help with just about everything in My Courses, Zoom, generally their computers. But I'll also mention, when you first log into My Courses, this is the main page that comes up. And for students and for you on the right, there's this contact support option. And for students, it's I see both because I'm an administrator, but you'll only see the one that applies to you. And for students, they have 24/7 access to email, live chat, and phone support that I just showed for help with any technical stuff related to online classes. So whenever your students have a question, tell them log into My Courses and click the Contact Support button, and they'll get connected to somebody who can help them. Under the Help Tips and Updates tab, that's another option for you and for students as well, and that's always at the top right corner of My Courses. There's tutorials for students on how to do everything. This is also within most folks' My Courses sites if you have that template. So it's how can they install Office, how to use a bunch of different My Courses tools, if they need help with their internet browser, if they need help with really anything, these are the resources just to point them to. Log into My Courses and then click on Contact Support or click on the Help Tips and Updates. Okay, so that wraps up everything I wanted to talk about in the workshop. If anybody has any questions, feel free to type them into the chat and we'll hang out until 11 o'clock and try to answer anything that comes up. But otherwise, you can reach out to us at ithelp.umassd.edu if you have any questions after the workshop. I also emailed everyone, so I will send out a link to the recording of this session. But if you're going to follow up and try to do some of these things, I'm also going to send some video tutorials that are a little more specific and quicker and direct, so you don't have to rewatch this whole hour-long thing. So that in the process of doing something, you can watch me tell you how to do it in 5 minutes as opposed to an hour. It's a little more useful that way. So like I said, I'm going to wrap up now. So if you have any questions, type them in, and I'll hang out with everybody until around 11 to see if anybody has questions. All right, I have guest lecturers come to class. Can I invite them via Zoom? You absolutely can. When you're in Zoom, there's an Invite Others button when you're in your session. And when you go to Invite Others, you can copy a link to your room and send the link to them via email. I cannot see faculty support on My Courses. So if your course site was made prior to like 2 days ago, the best way to get to our support links is when you log into My Courses. The very center here, we have a couple links about how to do stuff. But under here, under Help Tips and Updates, when you log into My Courses, there's a My Courses tutorial section and a link to check out the rest of our My Courses tutorials. That's where you want to go to get any help from us or from our tutorials. Oh, thank you for coming, everybody. Okay. Yep, and Rachel's paste and Tim have been pasting some great links in here. Okay, in the text chat. All right, great. All right, good luck, everybody. I know we're in sort of uncharted territory here. Well, we're going to do our best to help everybody get along as best we can. Yes, if you need any more detailed info on anything, please contact us and we'll get you what you need. I know everybody's class is different and has different needs and different, specific stuff you need to do. This is really the general tools that are available. And if you need any help executing or using a tool, please let us know. Oh, and then Rich Legault pasted another great link to some Zoom tutorials in there. In the text chat, I mean. Thank you, okay. Okay, looks like just about everybody's all set. Okay, so it looks like everybody's all set. So I guess I will finish up. All right, like I said, if anybody has any questions, please reach out to us. Otherwise, you'll hear from me via email with some follow-up stuff. And best of luck, everyone. All right, have a good day.